Q&A panel on top of your WebEx. And please do not send any questions on the chat, as all our panelists are looking on Q&A panel. So that will be the best way to ask questions. At the end of this webinar, you will also receive a survey. Please fill out that survey. It helps us find out new topics and improve on our webinars. People who will be watching the recording, who could not join us live, can still ask questions on the community post where you found about this webinar. You can just post questions as comments to the same post, and we'll keep monitoring and answering your questions there. So who should be attending the webinar? This webinar and the content in this webinar is intended for our new customers, people who are either new to ServiceNow application as a whole, or who are planning to implement problem management in their organizations, people who are responsible for problem, incident, and change management at their organizations, and ITSM implementation specialists. This is also helpful for our partners to understand the application and the process better. So with that, the agenda in today's webinar will be, we go through a couple of key concepts of problem management and the value it can bring to your organization and to your business, and how you can quickly realize the value of problem management application within the ServiceNow platform. Shiba will walk you through the demonstration. I will then walk you through some of the additional resources apart from this webinar that can be helpful. And in the end, we'll save some time for question and answers. So please ask any questions if you may have. All right, so let's get started with the definitions first. I want to stress more on this slide where we explain what problem actually is. So any interruption to the IT services in your organization, any interruption to those IT services are reported as incidents, and you keep track of those incidents. However, for each incident, there is always an underlying problem or a cause. That cause is called as the problem. Now, this problem can be a result of occurrence of same or similar incidents multiple times, or it can be an incident that impacted a number of users in your organization, or it can arise from proactive diagnosis of your systems which are not operating in the expected manner. So what should be the goal of problem management? The goal of problem management is to eliminate these recurring incidents, and the problem management is the process responsible for managing the entire life cycle of your problem. Now, the problem can or cannot be identified as, the root cause can or cannot be identified at the time of problem creation. So problem management is the process which is responsible for the entire life cycle of this problem record. Now, a lot of times, as I can see also in this definition, that it is the underlying cause of any incident. A lot of times the question arises, and this is a question for Shiba, a lot of time question arises that what is the point where incident management process ends and problem management starts? So that's a confusing transition. So Shiba, if you can talk a little bit more about that.
Definitely, Rohan, a good segue and a very valid question. So just before I get started, just a quick hello and thank you for dialing in or joining today's session. Going back to your question, right, where is the line between incident and problem management? If you think about it, actually, problem management is best defined in relation to the incident management process. Now, most of the implementations that I have seen or I have done, even today, some of our customers do their root cause analysis on incident. Is it right? ITIL, as all of you know, is just a framework. You can do your root cause analysis on your incidents if you are doing it, but the best practice or the proven practice is that you do your root cause analysis on problem, right? So let's go back and take a look at incident management. When an incident is created, really all you're trying to do is resolve that incident as soon as possible. You can almost compare it to firefighting. In this case, an incident has already occurred, and all you're trying to do is, how can I, or how soon can I resolve the incident? Now, if you look at problem management, this is where you're trying to find out what the root cause of that incident is and determine what can be done to prevent future incidents, right, or recurring incidents or new incidents that problem could really cause. So we use this always during our workshops. This is fire prevention, where you are trying to prevent new incidents or new recurring incidents from happening. So all you're trying to do is, when an incident happens, you provide a resolution, but once you do that resolution, whether it's a workaround or a permanent fix, or as you're resolving the incident, you always need to think that, hey, do I need to find the underlying cause of this incident? Or, do I need to spend more time on finding out what that root cause is and provide a permanent solution? And all that work really needs to happen in the problem management space. Does that answer your question?
Yes, awesome, thanks. And Shiva, I can see that KPIs also, you mentioned that the KPIs for incident management are mostly around increasing the service availability and productivity. However, the KPIs for problem management are mostly about decreasing the time to resolve incidents and the recurring incidents, which is now, which makes it's a lot clearer. Thank you.
Thanks, Rohan. So now let's take a look at, why would you even implement problem management process in first place? So think of a scenario, right? So you have your service desk, you get calls from your customers, you resolve incidents day in and out. But let's just take a scenario where, customers or callers or your users are calling for same issue again and again. Now, also say that, your service desk has a resolution or a ready solution that they can easily resolve the incident, but what does it do to the overall customer experience or service experience, right? So your end goal is, if my users are calling me for, incidents, and I see a number of callers calling with the same incident, this is where you want to put in the effort and do the problem management or do root cause analysis to see how can you actually either provide a workaround, provide enough knowledge, articles, or information, or even provide a permanent fix so that you can reduce the number of calls that you're getting. You do want to, fix the underlying errors in your applications or in your infrastructure. The other goal, obviously, is to prevent those incidents from occurring in first place, right? And this is where you call it as a proactive problem management or proactive prevention, where you don't even want your callers or customers to be calling with an issue given. That's a perfect environment. You might achieve that someday, but the truth is that you will have your callers calling the service desk for help or for incidents. Now, how can you actually reduce it, right? How do you provide or make the necessary information available so that you can reduce the number of calls? Now, I know we're going to get into the process a little later, but this is where I wanted to talk about known error or known error database a little. So as you're working on your incidents and problems, as soon as you know what that root cause is, you know the error now. So initially, when a problem record is created or from a recurring incidents or repeated incidents, at that time, you really do not know what that error is. That's why it's unknown error, because you don't know the root cause. Now, let's just say you are doing problem management process or you have implement a problem management process. You find the root cause. The first step that you really need to do is make that information available to your end users, to your service desk. First thing, in ServiceNow, and again, we'll take a look at it, within ServiceNow, you can publish your known errors as a knowledge article, which is not only visible to your service desk users, it is also available to your end users. So as a self-service user, when I'm coming to log an incident, if I have the right information available, and I know that it is a known defect, maybe after a software was released or an Apple, or maybe ServiceNow is implemented with a list of defects or list of known errors, I know that, this is the known error. If there is a workaround, the workaround is available, and I will not log that new incident. So that's the idea. The second thing is obviously these known errors or these knowledge articles are available to your service desk users or to your support organization, which in turn helps reduce the time taken to resolve an incident. So that's some of the goals, that's the need for you to actually have a problem management process in place. Now we talked about proactive prevention a little bit ago on the last slide. So what is it, right? Really, when you do problem management, what I have seen with my implementation experience with ServiceNow, outside ServiceNow, most of our customers really go with reactive problem management first, and which is absolutely fine. This is where an incident has occurred, you realize that, you want to do root cause analysis, and after the incident has occurred, you create a problem record to go through the problem process. Now that is triggered or, almost after the fact, after the incident has already occurred. The other side of it is proactive problem management. This is where, you are either monitoring or you're looking at your logs, you're looking at your, incidents that have already occurred in the past and trying to identify if there is a trend that you see and you want to either prevent future incidents from happening. That's the overall goal of incident management. But proactively, you create a problem record to find out that, hey, potentially there is a problem that could result in a number of incidents or even an outage, and you actually create a problem record even before the incidents have come in. A perfect example, and I'll give you a few examples here. Perfect example is if you're in a banking environment, right? And let's say an incident occurred and a business service was impacted during non-business hours. So at that time, it is okay, that the incident occurred. It did not really impact the business service. But then what if it was supposed to happen during business hours, right? Your trading systems, if that goes down during business hours, there is a tremendous impact. So this is a perfect example where you want to create a problem record and, find out what exactly happened, if there is anything that you could actually prevent from future incidents from happening, whether it is non-business or business hours. So that's an example of proactive problem management. The other one, which is my favorite, is, in ServiceNow, we have, whenever you implement, we do configurations, we do customizations, all of us do it. You have a log of warnings and error messages. Now, we get calls from our customers stating that something is broken. But what if we could actually prevent those calls by proactively looking at the logs and the error messages, and actually suggest that there is something that needs to get fixed, right? Because that's the first thing that you do when something is not working in ServiceNow. The first thing technically I do is really go take a look at the logs and error messages to see if there is anything, that the system is already pointing out at me, even before calling the service desk. So these are just few cases or, few examples of how you can actually do proactive problem management to prevent those incidents from occurring in first place. Now, let's take a look at the overall process flow and how you will actually do it in ServiceNow. Now, if you look at the process from a process flow standpoint, we have really kept it very simple in ServiceNow. Now, the first thing obviously is, you want to find out if there is a problem. You could do it directly from an incident or recurring incidents or whatever the reason might be, but you do want to detect and log that problem record. Now, you see the state. This pertains to open state if you look at the tool, and again, we'll look at the tool in some time. The second step of it is really investigation and diagnosis, and what I equate it to is root cause analysis. All you're trying to find out is what are the possible causes, and if I can actually get to a root cause, and once I find that out, can I give a workaround or can I do a permanent solution, right? So this is where, if you have identified the root cause, you create a known error record, and you put the state as known error. Now, the next step, or even in investigation and diagnosis, you have the known error. You might or you might not know the workaround, but that's when you know the workaround, you communicate the workaround to the service desk, to the callers who have actually logged that incident and are waiting for some kind of a workaround or some kind of a solution. After that, you have your solution and elimination process. This is where, you have identified, what the corrective actions are, and you're trying to figure out, is it even worth implementing a solution, right? Once you figure that out, it might go through a change management process. So this is where you actually initiate your change management process to implement that fix. Now, once you have done, you obviously validate the fix that you have provided. You close the problem record. You again notify the callers, send the right information out, update the documentation. So this is really very high-level process. Now, from this process standpoint, you obviously need to have certain roles and responsibilities. We are not saying that you need to have a separate team of problem analysts or, a team that is just working on problem management. In reality, that's really never happened. But the least you can do is definitely have a problem manager role who is just looking at the effectiveness of the problem management process. And by that, I mean they are looking at day-to-day activities, how the problem records are getting created. If the problem records are getting created, are teams really working on it? Is there a need to define, a simple timeline? I've seen companies where, or at least I have been a problem manager myself. So in the last organization, when we had a problem management process, unlike incident, we didn't have very strict SLAs, but we still had a timeline. For example, my problem record is created. How much time should you spend on doing root cause analysis and have an escalation process around it, right? So in this case, we had like a 30, 60, 90-day kind of an escalation process. So this is where it's not like a day or two. You have 30 days to figure out what that root cause analysis is. And at that point, you're really making a decision as to see whether, is the intention to spend more time, or are you trying to say that, okay, nothing really can be done. It is a known error. Let it be there, and we're not going to put a permanent fix around it, right? So there has to be some kind of a decision process, even in the problem management workflow. There has to be some timeline, some escalation process in place so that you don't have a dearth of open problems or a backlog of open problems where you're not able to put an effort into it because you're still in firefighting mode. So, and that's why we need that problem manager role who is looking at, how the teams are performing, or is it even effective, or, is the known error database, is it being updated? Do users have access to right information or not? So that's the role of the problem manager. Problem support teams, in the last organization where I worked as a problem manager, we had very specific teams per area. Like we had a team of, problem analysts, or at least one problem analyst per area, like network or database or application. So we had like separate problem management teams who were doing proactive problem or trend analysis. And, we used to look at incidents and see if there was a trend that I could identify and if there was anything else that I could be looking at to, prevent incidents from reoccurring. So we did do proactive problem management. Problem support teams in some organizations, or in fact, I should say most of the organizations that I've seen where I've implemented problem management process, it is the same as your incident support team, but you might have, specialists or SMEs, your level 2s or level 3s, who are really looking at the root cause analysis and trying to build a set of permanent solutions and, making sure that the knowledge articles are updated, that the right information is available. So these are the three different roles that you will see. If you have, if you're starting out, as simple as just having a problem manager role who is just taking a look at the end-to-end process is necessary, very important from a process standpoint. And then obviously, once you get to the proactive side or proactive problem management, that is where you have roles like problem analyst per area, or, however you want to define it. Now, let's get started with, logging a problem, or how do you even detect problems. So this is where, you have figured out how do you even detect there is a problem. There are a number of criteria. You will have your own criteria. Some of the things that we look at is really, how many incidents or how many recurring incidents we have. If there is a major incident and you have given a resolution, you have resolved it temporarily, but you do know that there is a need to go do that root cause analysis process. So when we are closing a major incident, we make that decision and create a problem record. You might do some kind of a proactive, problem management when you're looking at monitoring logs or creating a problem proactively. So these are some of the ways you will actually end up creating a problem record. Now, one important thing, when you create a problem record, the categorization of a problem record, all you have to just keep in mind, whatever your categorization schema might be, but you do want to keep it consistent between incident and problem, is just so that when you're looking at the effectiveness of how, after implementing problem, how has it impacted your incidents or the, the number of incidents that are creating, or the effectiveness of the process. Having a consistent categorization schema will definitely help you with that, like the measurement of the process effectiveness. Coming to prioritization, this is where in the base product, we have it very simple. Priorities calculated based on impact and urgency, but you could have, other criteria that you would want to define, such as, frequency or the number of incidents or the impact of your related incidents. One of the examples that I've seen is if there is, let's just say if I have the number of related incidents that are related to a problem, if it increases or if there is a sudden increase from, let's say, 10 to 20, I want to, prioritize the problem accordingly. So I have seen workflows where customers have automated the prioritization a little bit or override rules, where if there is a certain number of incidents that gets linked to a problem, you bump up the priority. So that is something that I've definitely seen customers implement. But again, it totally depends on what your current state or current policies are. Investigation and diagnosis, we talked about it a little. The end goal for me during this process is really to find that root cause. There are a number of problem-solving techniques, that I do see our customers are using. You have brainstorming, or fishbone diagram, or the Kepner-Trego, or pain value analysis. I have seen customers using these problem-solving techniques to actually go through the root cause analysis process, and it is worth your while if you're able to spend that kind of a time to do a proper structured root cause analysis process. The only thing, sorry, Rohan.
Sorry to interrupt, Shiva. I'm looking at these problem-solving techniques, and I'm wondering if there is anything which is, I mean, I can read about these and get started, implement them in my problem management process, but is there anything out of the box in ServiceNow that I can use, one of these techniques?
Yes, very valid question. So yes, we do have one plugin, the Kepner-Trego Problem Analysis plugin that we make available for structured problem analysis. And there is more information available on the wiki, and we can provide that link. But the only recommendation that we give is when you're installing that plugin, you obviously have to request it, and the recommendation is to actually go through the Kepner-Trego analysis process training, because process is what counts here more. So you have to go through a training before you can actually activate the plugin, and we can actually add that link, Rohan, provide that link for more information.
Okay, cool. That would be great. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So coming to the investigation diagnosis process, the only one thing that I wanted to highlight here is obviously we talked about, as soon as you know a root cause, you publish a known error. And the way we do it in ServiceNow is the problem record itself is just checked as a known error. But additionally, you could publish the problem as a knowledge article. So what we do internally in ServiceNow is really we publish all the problems as a knowledge article, and that's how our support teams and service desk, they're all working off of. So we have a known error database, but it is knowledge articles at the end of the day. Now, when you have a knowledge article, one of the ways, obviously, you have identified the root cause, you create a known error. But the other way also you have to look at is if you have a release process in place, how many times have you released, like any application software where you know that there are some defects that our customers should be aware of. So you do publish them as known errors without having a problem record created. So that is also, you should really publish those known errors whenever you're from the release and the deploy management process. After that, you have, sorry, any questions?
Hello, Shiva, Anthony speaking. Sorry, so I have one question related to the known error database. So you mean when you create a problem, because you have a major incident, so you can identify how it happens, but you still don't know why it happened. So the rule should be to create a problem, then the known error associated, right?
So yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. In this particular scenario, the one that you explained, it should be a rule to create the problem record, because you don't know at that point what that error is. You create the problem record, you do some analysis, now you know what the error is or what the root cause is, you create a known error. Now, the one question that I usually get is, should I wait till I know the workaround and create a known error, right? No. As soon as you know the error, you create it so that your customers are aware. And then when you know the workaround, you update the known error with the workaround. So, so that's the way. You create the known error as soon as you know, and then you keep updating that known error with workarounds or permanent fix and close the known error.
Okay, and when we will find the solution, we will implement it, and the root cause will be identified and fixed. In that case, the known error is no more topical, no? Because we shouldn't use again if we fix definitely the problem.
Correct. So let me repeat that question. Are you saying that once you know the solution, what should happen to the known error record? Is that the question?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Very valid question. So for what we suggest as a best practice, proven practice, is that as soon as you know that there is a permanent fix, and you should close the known error. So in case of a knowledge article, you should retire the known error because you have a permanent fix and it's not a problem anymore.
And I hope Shiva has already answered the question, but we'll come back to these questions at the end of this session. Let's just quickly walk through all these slides in the demo that Shiva has to show here, and then we can come back to these questions. But please keep asking them in the Q&A panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Rohan. The last piece of it, you already asked that right question, right? So once you know what that final solution is, it's completely depending on policies, whether you actually have to log a change request to implement that fix. You initiate the change request from the problem record. Now, once you have implemented the solution, you validate the solution with your callers. Once you know that it has really fixed the issue, you can actually go close the problem record. But with that comes another round of updates that you have to do, right? You obviously have to notify all the relevant stakeholders, whether it is your business service owner or your CI owner, the callers who actually called in with that problem or with that issue. You have to actually send a notification to all of them, keep them updated. If there are any known error or knowledge articles, known errors, basically, they should be retired. If there is any knowledge article update that you have to do, that should be done. So there are like number of things that you have to do as you're getting ready to close the problem record. With that, let's actually go into ServiceNow, and I'll show you how the process works in ServiceNow. It is very simple, and as I'm going through it, I can definitely highlight some of the things that I've seen our customers implement, some small bits and pieces of workflows that I've seen them doing. Now, we talked about problem record creation. You can create a problem either directly from the problem management menu, that is on the left navigation. I hope it's not this slow once we started. So you can create a problem record directly, or you can actually create it from an incident. And in this case, I have an incident, where it is talking about performance issues with my email. It is assigned to Fred from hardware team. Now, as I'm working on it, I realized that there is something that I'm not able to figure out, and a problem record has to be created. You can actually just right-click and create a problem record. So I will wait for that to get created. You'll see that it just copied some of the basic information, like it copied the configuration item from the incident. It copied the short description, and you will see that it has linked the incident to the actual problem record. Now, this is where I've seen, our customers do some configurations as to what information gets copied, right? Obviously, you can add more fields that gets copied from incident to the problem record. So that is something that I have always seen our customers configure. Now, let's go take a look at, on the left navigation, I just have a list of modules, right, that are available for you to access. You'll see that you can take a look at all the open problem records. You can also look at known errors, which is nothing at this point. It's really a filtered list of problems where either the known error checkbox is ticked or the state of the problem is known error itself. We have two ways you can mark a problem as a known error, and I'll show one of it now. This is the problem that we created, right? So you can either change the state to known error, or there is a checkbox that you can actually expose on the form, which checks it, and you can mark the problem as a known error. This is handy where if you have known problems that are getting released during the release and the deployment phase, you can directly create a problem without linking it to any incidents or anything else, and directly mark it as a known error. So that will get, those set of known errors will be available to service desk or any support user. Basically, they can access or take a look at the list of known errors that are published. I'm going to actually go back to the problem record that we just created. So we have this here in open state. there are some of the fields, let's talk about it. We have configuration item, business service, very similar to the incident management. Impact and urgency, you can see it is exactly the same as incident management works, but you can always have those override rules. And I have seen our customers create the override rules for setting a problem priority. And the perfect example is, if I have a list of incidents that are attached to this problem, but let's just say a major incident gets attached to this problem, and now it is impacting a critical business service, then obviously you do need to update the priority of the problem, or they have rules where they update the priority to, something like a major or high, where you have to prioritize the problem work accordingly. You'll see that just because I changed the priority, it is asking me for work notes. So, okay. The assignment group, assigned to, which exactly works as the incident does. You could have, you could define some roles for assignments, automatic assignments. You could copy the assignment group from the incident to the problem record. Totally depends how you implement your problem management process. Now, we talked about publishing or publishing a problem record as a known error. To be able to do that, you don't necessarily also have to change it, but let's say I now know the root cause, and I am ready to publish this known error. Or even before publishing it as known error, what I want to do is quickly send out a communication to my end users that, hey, this is the workaround. I'm going to type it. So this is the workaround. I have updated the workaround, and you can communicate the workaround to the callers that are on the incident. So as soon as you click on it, it says that the workaround communicated. So first of all, the workaround is documented. And then what it does is it looks at all the incidents that are linked to that problem, and if they are pending problem. So the condition is that the state has to be in pending problem, which I didn't do. If the state is in pending problem and a workaround is communicated, it will send an email notification to all those users who are awaiting problem, right? So it sends a communication that, hey, there is a workaround available, you can try the workaround. So that's just one way of communicating the workarounds. Now, I do want to actually publish the workaround as a knowledge article. So what I can come here and do is I can post knowledge. And what that does is it actually creates the knowledge article and links it to the problem record. So let's go take a look at the problem record itself. So if I go back to the problem record, and if you scroll down, you will see that I created a knowledge, and it is right now in draft. Again, you will have a process to publish that knowledge article, but it copies the information, the description. I didn't have anything there, so I did not put it, but you can see that it updated the workaround, and this is where the service desk or even your end users have access to the updated workarounds. So that's another piece of information that you could use or discard it. So we talked about communicating the workaround, and this is all in the base product, the functionality, how you can publish a workaround. You can see that there is a link within the incidents, the knowledge articles. Now you do also have problem tasks, and most often, whenever you're trying to work on a problem, it's not just your team. You might have to involve other teams to do root cause analysis. And this is where you can actually assign problem tasks to do the root cause analysis. And so this is, again, something I've seen our customers use. We use it internally. We do use the problem tasks to actually assign work for the teams to go root cause analysis.
So you mean to say with the problem tasks, I can create tasks for different other teams other than the people who are working on this problem already? I can send these specific tasks to unique teams, right?
That is correct. That is correct. You're absolutely right. And you can have like number of tasks created.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay. Now, let's just quickly talk about, we talked about, it is a known error, you have published the knowledge article. Now, let's just say you have identified a fix and you're ready to send that information out, right? You can, again, one thing you can definitely do is, let's just say that you know that it is a permanent fix. You can update the work notes and you can resolve incidents. So this is where you know that when you do resolve incidents, this is where you know that you have a resolution with you and you are ready to now communicate it to your callers. What this does is really, this sends, again, this updates the problem with the close notes, that's one. But this information gets passed to the incident, and you will see the incident that I had in a pending problem state is now resolved, and the caller has received that resolution information as well, which I entered in the close notes. Now, the whole idea behind this is obviously you have sent your resolution. You think that you have resolved the problem, but you definitely want your callers to give a chance to say that whether the problem, whether the issue is resolved or not. So they get it, they get the email notification. They can take a look at it. If the issue is resolved, they have the capability to actually close the incident after confirmation. So that's one way to actually resolve related incidents or, send updated communication out. So there are a few things that obviously I've seen our customers do. Is one thing is, obviously we talked about that the knowledge article should be known error, or the knowledge article that you published as a known error should get closed once you have done a permanent fix, right? So what I've seen our customers do is they really have a small workflow in place where, if the problem record is closed, they actually go and retire the knowledge article that was published as a known error. So a few things, that you will have to do some kind of configurations to make it working. But this is a very simple version of really baseline problem management process that we have in the base product.
Great. Thank you so much, Shiva, for this great demo. I now totally relate how you can start the problem management process right at the end of incident management, and then how smoothly it transitions into the change management process, where from the problem record itself, you can just right-click and create the change and eliminate the root cause, or implement the fix of that problem. So. Do you have any more slides to cover, or I should walk through the additional resources, because we need to save 10-15 minutes for question and answers. I see a lot of them in there.
Yeah, I think we are good. The only other slide that I have is really around KPIs, but then this is, again, based on the process that you have implemented. You do want to have KPIs defined to see the effectiveness of the problem management process that you have implemented. So I'm not going to go through the individual ones that are listed here, but you definitely have access to the ones to the presentation, and these can be looked at later on.
Okay, perfect. So now the attendees can ask questions, and I can see those questions are already coming in the Q&A panel. So Shiva, while you take a look at those questions and prepare your answers, let me walk through some of the additional resources slide. Yes. So one of the resource definitely is the product doc site. It has a lot of good information about this entire process and how the different pieces of the application work. One other resource is the process guides, which you can find on Hi. If you log into Hi, search for ITSM process guides, you will find a lot of information on understanding the process, how you can implement it quickly in your organization. So that is a very valuable resource. I encourage you look at the latest patches and known error portal. So known error portal is our own problem management piece. So every time when you implement or when you upgrade and you think some things are not working as you desired, just go check what the release notes and the latest patches have introduced, or any known errors that we have fixed, or any known errors that we know of are available to review in that known error portal. And these slide deck and the recording of the webinar will be posted in the community, and the hyperlinks will work. So if you click on those, you will be redirected to the exact location. Another good resource is the ITSM guides space on community. You will find a lot of good information there. And the discussions, I've seen a lot of questions being answered, not just technically, but also functional questions being answered on the community quickly by our own internal ServiceNow experts and also outside experts. So that is also a very good resource. With that, let's start taking up questions. Shiva, I see you had already answered Anthony's question during the show, but if you want to pick up his question again and give some more details. Are you able to access the Q&A panel, Shiva?
No, you know what? Actually, that's what I was trying to figure out. I am not able to access the Q&A panel for some reason.
Okay, it is on top of your screen, but I can tell you what the question is. Anthony is asking, I would like to clarify what exactly is the known error database, because for me, when you close a problem, it means that you found the root cause and probably fixed it, so the known error won't occur again. So is it relevant to store the information?
So, Rohan, could you just repeat that last question? Is it?
So his question is it relevant to store the information or store the known error?
Okay, so, known error database, the way companies have done it differently. Some of the other companies or some of the other applications, you will see a new known error record that is created, right? But I would say that either way, in ServiceNow, the problem record is the known error, and it's just a checkbox that controls if it is a known error or not. So in either cases, it is relevant for you to have that known error record just as a history, right? So that you're able to actually take a look at it. Maybe you're interested to know number of known errors that you have published for a particular business service or for a particular configuration item or a category of problems or not, right? So those known error records are still relevant in terms of when you want to report on it or from a history standpoint. But when you have resolved a problem and when you have given a permanent fix, at that time, the known errors are not relevant for users to go look at, right? I mean, you basically, so in our case, when it's a known error that I have published, I will keep it in published state. In our case, it is a knowledge article, right? So I will keep it in published state till I don't have a final resolution. But once I have a final resolution, once the problem is resolved, I will retire the article so that that known error is not visible to my service desk, is not visible to the end users when they are trying to log a new incident, but it is available for anybody to report on. Does that answer the question, Anthony?
Well, everyone is muted, so hopefully it answers. Otherwise, Anthony, please feel free to post your comment or question again. The other question I have is from Philip. He's asking, can I produce a problem agenda with the ServiceNow toolset and therefore run the problem board meeting from within the tool? And what data structure would that problem agenda be presented in? Okay,
so Philip, I'm assuming that you have looked at the CAB workbench that we use to have a CAB agenda. If you're referring to that, then I want to tell you that this is something that we are working on in terms of for two use cases primarily. One is for you to be able to run a major incident, post-incident review, on major incidents. And the second one is actually on the problem management side. And the way I'm thinking about it right now is there are two use cases really. One is, you have a list of open problems that, you want to have a meeting around. So it is the actual problem records is your agenda. And the other one that I'm looking at is if you have a major problem that you happen to actually go through for incident and diagnosis process, then I want to kind of review all the major problems and what was done to either fix those, what are the lessons learned, and all that information. So two different use cases on problem as well. But overall, we are trying to figure out what is the best way to extend the CAP workbench kind of functionality and give you something similar to manage your major incident meetings and also your PIR meetings.
Nice. Well, if that can happen for problem, that will be great. I just love CAP workbench. All right, moving on to the next question. This is a question from Jason Stephens, and I think Anthony's question is also similar, so hopefully you can answer both with this one question. Can you talk a bit about why there is a check mark for known error and a known error state in the application?
Yes, valid question. Sorry, did I interrupt?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so the known error check mark that we have is just in cases where, you just want to quickly publish a known error article without going through the whole process, right? So you create a problem record, you just check the known error, and this is specifically handy when you have like a release and a deployment, when the known error portals, you just want to make a list of known errors in your production environment. You don't have an incident, you don't have, you don't have like related incidents that is leading you to create that known error, but it's based on a release that just happened. Now what happens is, if you change the state from pending to, from known error to pending change, right? Because let's just say you have a change request that you have created to implement a problem, then you could change the state from problem to pending change, but with the checkbox, you know that it is still a known error and, the known error record is still visible to everybody. But then you uncheck it when you know that you have given a permanent solution. So just to give some flexibility, that's about it. So that's the reason why we have known error checkbox and the state as well, because you could be in a different state. So for example, the problem record you have just created, but in case of a release and deployment, though you have just created the problem record, you have not identified what the root cause is, but you just still want to make the known error available to your end users because you know these defects or there are known errors in your production environment.
Great. Another question is, any reason that the workaround doesn't go to the work notes for all the incidents first? Wouldn't it make more sense that the responsible agents want to review the workaround to see if it applies to their incident before communicating it? And I guess you covered a little bit when the closed notes were sent to the resolved incidents, but I think Aaron is asking why the workaround doesn't go to the work notes for all the incidents first.
For everybody to actually take a look at.
Correct.
That's a valid question, Aaron. I mean, that is something that we'll have to think through but the way I see it, we are communicating the workarounds directly to the caller so that they have access to it. But if the process is that you want your assignees on the incident records to first validate the workaround, then it's a configuration, right, that you post your workarounds to the work notes instead of additional comments. But the way we saw it is really, I don't want another layer for me to validate that solution, and I'm leaving the validation with the customer or the caller. But I don't see either ways it makes sense. At the end of the day, either you have a validation process in between once a workaround is determined, or you don't have a validation process. So it'll work both ways.
Great. Okay. So where do the analysts find the problem tasks?
That's a valid question. and we are fixing that. Right now, there is really no direct way on the left navigation for you to find a problem task. So what I have done in the past is really just add another module for problem tasks that are assigned to me. But if you're working off of a standard dashboard or a standard home page, you will obviously have access to all the tasks that are assigned to you. But if you look at the left navigation, there is really nothing that gives you a list of tasks that are specifically assigned to you. We do have that noted for something that we have to fix once we actually start working on the problem management again.
Okay, great. So that's on your roadmap.
It is. It is.
Next question from Heather. Can problem management be used to manage various configuration items which represent third-party applications? My company provides support for third-party applications and creates incidents surrounding these calls and problems. So can problem management be used to manage various configuration items which represent third-party applications?
I would say yes. And, perfect example will be, let's just say, so in this case, you really still want to make that information available to your end users, right? So let's just say, you have ServiceNow, a third-party application that you're using, and you have a list of known errors. Now, of the known errors, depending on the applications that you have implemented, if there is anything that you want to provide all of your users, then you do want to create problem records just to manage your life cycle around it, right? Though you're depending on the vendor or the vendor to provide a solution, but you still want your customers, your support teams, your callers to be aware of all that is going on with that particular application. So I would say yes.
Okay. So we are right on time now. And if we miss any questions or if you have any additional questions, please do ask them on the community and we'll try to answer them as quickly as possible. But once again, thank you so much for joining us. The next event is on Service Catalog, What's New in Jakarta release. And please do fill out the survey at the end of this webinar. Thanks again for joining. Have a nice day. Thanks, Shiba.
Thank you, Rohan. Thank you, everyone.